wanted to start by just asking you your experience of school.
I love school. Like, I can't speak high enough of Merchants to anyone. Like, I was looking if I was at Merchants from year one at Stanfield to year 11 when I left, and it was just the best time. I probably didn't realise how fortunate I was to go to such a great school. I left and I went to a sixth form college in Leicester to be able to pursue professional rugby alongside it, and honestly, just the best times, best memories of my time at Merchants. I absolutely loved it.
And so, what was the move like then when you moved from your GCSEs to your? Did you do A levels at the college you went to?
Yeah, so I still did three A levels. I wouldn't have wanted to go if I couldn't. I think I was very aware. Also, my parents made sure I was fully aware of how important it was that I was doing A levels and getting good qualifications. Because let's be honest, although at 16 I was getting signed a professional contract, the likelihood of me making it as a professional career in sport was slim. It is, unfortunately, it's a competitive area. So I still did my A levels, and it was just a monumental change. I went from Merchants, where there's 800 boys across the whole school, so I went to a sixth form college where there was 2,000 boys and girls across 2 years. So for the first time since I was seven, I had girls in my class, which was so strange. It's like obviously I'd been around girls in normal life, but to have them in school was a big change for me again. And I went from class size of maybe 10 or 15 to there was 35 in my history class. So it was very different, and I probably struggled at first with getting used to not having as much help as I was used to at Merchants. That made me realise how lucky I was at Merchants. But I thankfully got to grips with it enough that I did get good A levels. If I ever do need to fall back on them, I've got them. That's so important for anyone in sport, I think, to have. It's such a fickle career. One bad injury and you're done. So it's important everyone has to fall back on. Thankfully, I have them. Hopefully, I won't ever need them, but if I do, I've got them.
I'm really glad you mentioned that because I always feel awkward about talking to students that are obviously really good at sport and say, look, you might need a backup. And when they make it and you think, all right, well maybe they didn't perhaps need the backup. So I'm really glad you've said that. So what A levels did you take, Charlie?
So I got A levels in history, classical civilization, and English language.
And what made you take those three then?
I really enjoy history. I'm a bit of a big old nerd for history. So the fact that I could take history and then class civ, which was essentially ancient history as well, really pleased me. I got to do two types of history, and then I don't enjoy maths and sciences that much. They don't really appeal to me. Ideally, I would have taken English literature because I love reading. That's what I've been doing this morning. I trained. I've been reading this morning, just reading because I enjoy it before coming on this. But with all the training I had to do at Leicester, I didn't have the time to read the books for literature, so I chose to take language because I enjoy writing. I write a column for a rugby journalist website and stuff. I enjoy doing that, so I took that because I enjoyed writing. And while maybe English language didn't end up interesting me as much as I hoped it would, I was good enough at the writing side and enjoyed that enough to get through and get a decent grade. So that was why I took those two. But I actively enjoyed history. I still do. I read lots of history. I studied lots of history. I watched lots of history documentaries. I'm a big old nerd for history, so it probably helped that I had a passion for that as well as my sport.
Did you ever consider university at all, Charlie?
Yeah, so I actually had, excuse me, I had a place at Nottingham. So I applied for all uni in my last year of school because how it worked at Leicester was you got signed at 16 to a 2-year contract while you finished school, and then you didn't know until towards the end of your last year at school whether you were going to get a new contract or not. So there was the possibility that Leicester Tigers could have said, we don't want to re-sign you and cut you loose at 18, and then I would have gone to uni and gone down a more stereotypical path maybe. So I applied to unis and I actually accepted a place at Nottingham to do history and ancient history. And I took that because if I didn't get signed by Leicester, which I luckily did, I would have gone and done that and enjoyed it, and that's what I would have done. But also, they had a part-time option, so I got that, I deferred it for a year, and then took a gap year to just do rugby, and then I was all ready to. I got signed again by Leicester when I was 19, so my 4th season there, as part of the first team squad, so professional player properly the first time, not in the academy anymore. And I wanted to do uni alongside it, and Leicester were all for it. And the RPA, the Rugby Players Association, will give you some funding for it as well, because they want to encourage players to get degrees. So I was all for it, ready to go. I spoke to Nottingham, and the problem was part-time for them still meant 3 days a week at the university, which I couldn't do because I had to be at less training. That was my job. So I wanted to defer again and try and work something out with them. But because it was such a specialist course, there was only 18 places on it. They said they wouldn't let me defer again because it was oversubscribed. So at that point, I let that go. And then my career kind of didn't take off per se because it hasn't gone 100% the way I would have wanted. Although I'm not playing in the Premiership week in, week out, which we'll get onto at some point, I'm sure. We'll talk more about the sports side of things. But my career was getting to a point where I was making enough money to live as a professional rugby player. That was what I did full time then. So I let university. I don't think I will ever go to university now. I'm doing other sorts of qualifications at the moment as another backup more than just a backup for when I retire. So I've got a plan in place. I know what I want to do. But that just, for me, what I want to do doesn't need a degree. So I'm studying. I've got my books next to me here of what I'm studying to do after. But yeah, so I did consider university, but it just didn't end up being the right move for me at that time.
I'll get onto the sport in a second, but I have to ask you, what are you thinking about doing after you retire, Charlie?
So I'm studying at the moment for my exams to be qualified as a financial advisor.
Okay.
Because it's what my dad does, and it's a family company, and something I'm would like to get interested in when I get involved when I finish. But I also really enjoy some of the media work I've done. So like I said earlier, I write an article for Talking Rugby Union. I've hosted some podcasts. I host a radio show, and I'm furthering that as well. I'd love to work in the media with rugby alongside that as well. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I think it's important, and probably lockdown has been a good time for people in sport to realise when we can't be in at the club every day, we can't be training every day, so we do our training by ourselves. We've got all this spare time to do nothing. So I've just been trying to improve my network, improve my skills in those sorts of things, and been studying and stuff so that I am more ready for when my career ends mid-30s. I've still got 30 years of working to do. Like I've got to work out what I'm going to do and what I'm going to enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Okay, so when did you get into rugby then? When did it all start?
So there are pictures of me with a rugby ball in my hands before I could walk. We couldn't be more the stereotypical rugby family if we tried. And like, I was never pushed into playing rugby ever, but it was always there, it's just a part of my life. So I started playing properly when I was 4, down at Waterloo. And then it was probably when I was aged about, and I always said growing up, I want to play professional, I want to play for England. That's what every kid says. Every kid wants to play for England, be a spaceman. That's what everyone wants to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was probably when I was about 14, when people started to grow out of saying that and started to say, I want to be a lawyer or I want to be a doctor or things that are more typical. I never really grew out of it. I was like, no, this is what I want to do. It was actually my dad sat me down. I was like, this is really what you want to do, then let's go for it. Like, I'll help you, but you need to start preparing now. So that was probably when 14, I think the summer, 14, 15, I started doing my own training as well as what I was doing at school at Waterloo and trying to get fit and be a bit more conscious of what I was eating and that sort of stuff. And that was when I probably made a conscious decision of, I'm going to really give this a go. I remember when I was about 14, I said, I want to play for England under 16s. That's what I want to do. So then everything revolved around doing that. And that was when my training changed and I started eating well and doing what I wanted to do. And then it was when I was about 15, Leicester came calling, we'd be interested in maybe taking you at 16. And it all just snowballed from there, really.
And how had they seen you, Charlie?
So it was through... So obviously Ben Kay was playing for them at Winter Merchants, and he played with my dad at Waterloo. They played together, and then actually Mr. Sleman, who I don't know, he's not at school anymore, but was head of rugby school.
He is still there.
Is he? I know he's not in charge of the rugby club, but Mr. Sleman, his best friend, one of his best friends, a man called Tosh Askew, had also coached my dad, but was Mr. Sleman's best friend, still is, and he was assistant academy manager at Leicester at the time. So we had a few links through them, and it was Tosh who got in contact when I was 15 and said, we'd like you to come on trial and play a few games like the junior academy, so that's what I did. And it was actually Tosh came down and watched me play for Merchants at the start of my last year there. So I was looking to play for the first team at Merchants when I was 16, so in year 11. But Tosh came down and watched the game, and I came off the pitch and wasn't expecting to see there. And it was then that he told me they were offering me a contract to move in R16. So that was how that came about, through links through Dad and through Mr. Sleman and through school.
And how huge was the commitment at such a young age, Charlie?
So Leicester did it differently to anyone else at that point, and the academy is different at Leicester now. But the fact was, at 16, I did my GCSEs. I had 2 weeks off after GCSEs finished. We went on a family holiday, and then I got back, and the next day I moved to Leicester. So I left home. I moved in with a family in Leicester, who took me in. And one of the lads, a boy called John, who's my best friend to this day. So we moved in with them, and then it was full time, as in 5 days a week. You were in training. So my usual week when it came to college as well was on a Monday, I'd train 3 times a day. First session would be at 9 o'clock in the morning. Then we go to college. Then we come back from college to train and have 2 more sessions. Tuesday, we'd be in the gym at 7 o'clock in the morning. So my days were starting at about 6 o'clock. We were having 3 sessions on Tuesday as well. I was probably leaving the house at 6, getting back at about 8:30, 9 after college and sessions. Thursday was the same as Tuesday. Wednesdays was just 1 session, but a bigger day at college. Fridays depended on the weekend if you were playing or not, but either 1 or 2 sessions in college. Saturday we'd play. Sunday we'd have off. It'd start all again on a Monday. So it was huge. I went from very much rugby just being what I did for fun, and I took it seriously, to very quickly I was part of a professional environment, and I went from being the player in all the teams I played who took it the most seriously, who was the biggest, to suddenly I was in an academy environment with boys who were as old as 19 who'd done this for 2 years already, and it was a steep learning curve to put it lightly. But I loved every second of those 2 years. I look back now and think I was so busy. I don't know how I did it all.
Yeah.
But they were just the best fun. I was with my best mate. There was 15 of us in our year, every day, training, working hard, going to college, having a laugh with my mates. Maybe not, some of them maybe not as much college work as they should, but I was lucky in the fact that I had parents who made sure I did. Like over the phone, mum and dad were like, "Are you doing your work?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm doing my work," but now I'm really thankful they did.
Yeah.
It was just, it was incredible. And then it set me up, I think, for my career in rugby brilliantly, because I understood what it took to be a professional athlete, like the commitment to sacrifices very early, but also for the rest of my life. There's a lot of lads I know who didn't make it in rugby, unfortunately, but those 2 years or 3 years, however long they were in the academy, they say the skills they learnt have stood them in such good stead for their life in business or corporate sector, like what they do now. They've transferred those skills. So I can't talk highly enough of my time in the academy at Leicester. It was just excellent.
I want to talk to you then, so what happened after Leicester, but to link into what you just said, what qualities do you think you need to be a successful professional sports player?
I think a lot of them are transferable to being a successful whatever you want to be. I think, obviously, for sport, you obviously have to have some degree of talent to excel professionally, because it's such a competitive environment. So you won't see any professional rugby players or professional footballers who aren't talented at that sport. It doesn't happen. But I think what you do see is players, and this is where I think anyone can learn from anything, is making the absolute most of their talent. So the thing I learned very quickly at Leicester we spoke about is being the best at what we call the zero talent battles. So things that require no talent that anyone can do, but people choose not to. So things like, it's going to sound really ironic because I missed last week's meeting because I couldn't get online, but being late was not acceptable at Leicester. I learned that very quickly. There was a big clock in the gym, big red clock, and if your session started at 7 a.m, which they did every morning, if you walked in at 7 o'clock, 0 minutes and 1 second, that was late. You were sent home, your day was done.
Really?
Like late is late is what we learned. And while that's a very extreme example, things like the zero touch, so being on time, working hard, like we always have to think that there's no excuse for anyone to work harder than you, because working hard is a decision. You decide how hard you're going to work. We used to speak a lot about being coachable, and I think that's an aspect in life of being able to listen to people, knowing that you might know more than me about this, so I'm going to listen to you. Whereas I think a lot of people, especially young men, we can be quite egotistical. It's just the way we are. Especially, I know I was a lot more egotistical at 16 when I got to less than 18 when I finished my time in the academy. We can be very much, I don't listen to you, I know better. Well, actually, you know what? You probably don't. And that's something I've learned, I'm still learning, is I think a great skill to have is surrounding yourself with people who know more about things than you and learning from them, whatever it is. So for me, like, well, I'm starting to work in podcasts, like speaking to people who've done successful podcasts, like having conversations like, what do you do that works? What have you tried that doesn't work? Like learning things like that. So that was a big thing I learned from Leicester there. And also just, I think you have to be incredibly strong-willed and strong-minded in the right sense, because being a 16-year-old lad or person, boy, girl, whatever, saying, I want to be a professional sportsman, people laugh at you. People go, that's ridiculous, grow up, decide to have a proper job. I remember I went into one careers meeting at school, and everyone at school was excellent and so supportive, apart from this one careers officer whose name I can't
no, don't say it, because I'm gonna dissolve.
I went, and they said, oh, Charlie, what would you like to do? And I said, look, I'd really like to be a professional rugby player. And this guy went, well, that's nice. Here's some stuff in engineering. I was like, wow, okay. So you get people who just think it's just a fad, you'll grow out of it. So you have to be strong, and you have to be willing, unfortunately, to make sacrifices. Like leaving school at 16 was a huge sacrifice for me. I wanted to do sixth form merchants. I wanted to play 2 more years for the first team. I wanted to go to the Christmas party, to go to the leavers balls. I wanted to do all these things, but I didn't get the chance. And some things you sacrifice and you don't know if they're worth it. And there's times where you have down times where you're not getting picked, or you're not playing well, or you've missed a christening or a wedding or a family event because you've been doing an extra fitness session, and you're there going, is this really worth it? But you've got to put those sides away, because when you do win that game or you do win that trophy, every single second of it is worth it, because you know how hard you've worked to earn it. So I think you've got to be incredibly strong-willed and strong-minded, but also open to knowing when you've got to listen to other people.
That's great advice. So you were with Leicester at 19. They'd signed you again. So then what happened? Sort of what were the next steps? How did you get to where you are now?
So I'd grown up wanting to play for Leicester, dreamed of being at Leicester, happy to get signed by them, was amazing, piece of luck. And now I was like, right, this is my club. I want to only play here for the rest of my career. And it was, to be honest with you, Vicky, till 19, it couldn't have been going any better. I got to the academy. I played England under 16s. I played England under 18s. I captained England under 18s. Played England under 20s. Won the Six Nations. Went to the Junior World Cup. I came back and started my first pre-season with the first team. Was going really well. Played a few pre-season first team friendlies. Got man the match in one of them. It was all going really well. And then we had a new head coach, a guy called Aaron Major, who played for New Zealand, had moved over from New Zealand. He had a different idea of a style of play. And basically my face just didn't fit with how he wanted to play. And unfortunately, rugby is a subjective sport. It's not like swimming, where it's you swam the fastest, you are the best.
Okay.
It's an objective sport. And but he said, if I tried a different position, it might work. So I moved position. I started playing in the front row. And it was a learning curve, and I had some good days, had some bad days. It was going okay. But then, without boring you with the details, it came to contracts, and Leicester had told me that they wouldn't do something when it came to renegotiate my contract, and that was exactly what they did. And I consider myself almost to my own detriment sometimes honest, and I was just like, I can't deal with this. Like, no, I'm not having you lie to me when I'm completely honest with you. If that doesn't change, I'm going to look to leave. And it was probably the first time I saw the cold-hearted side of sport.
How old were you at this point, Charlie?
I'm 20 years old.
Okay.
So I've given everything to this club. I've done everything I can. I still love Leicester. I had a great 4 seasons there. And I said, if this doesn't change, guys, and I was asking for a very small change in the grand scheme of things, I'm going to look to leave. And they just turned around and went, okay, off you go. I was like, right, okay, fine. And it probably made me grow up a little bit and be a little less naive in the business side of sport. It was the first time I'd seen that. So my academy manager at Leicester, a guy called Neil McCarthy, had moved to Gloucester. So I went out of that meeting, I rang my agent. I said, look, Leicester aren't going to move. I'm going to give Macca a call. He said, yeah, go for it. I think that's your best move. So I rang Macca at Gloucester, and I said, hypothetically, if I was looking to leave Leicester, would you be interested in signing me? He was like, give me an hour, let me work a few things out, ran me back and said, yeah, but I'd want you in the position that you were playing before. So I moved. So that whole season kind of was a waste then.
Yeah.
I moved back to the position I was playing before, and I moved to Gloucester. So at 20 years old, moved to Gloucester. Had 2 seasons at Gloucester. Obviously another Premiership side. Captain the reserve side my whole time there. I captained the first team in the cup, so like the equivalent of the FA Cup for football is the Anglo-Welsh Cup in rugby. I captained the first team in that. I played in the European Cup, and it was all in my eyes going really, really well. The conversation my agent had with them at the end of my second year was, Charlie's going to be re-signed next year. We want him to be our 5th choice second row. We carry 5 second rows. Charlie will be our 5th choice, completely in the first team. All great. We want to get it done by Christmas. I was like, brilliant, happy days. Christmas came and went. Wasn't concerned. That always happens in rugby, in sport in general. January came and went. It was like, okay, they've sorted a few other things out, and I got called in on a Friday. On a Friday in February, and they just said there was a director of rugby and the head coach, and they just said there's nothing here for you next season. We're not going to re-sign you. I was like, right, can I ask why? And they said, we decided to go with 4 second rows, not 5. I was like, oh, okay. So out of nowhere that happened, and looking back on it, I was a little naive. Again, probably, unfortunately in sport, people sometimes just say what they know you want to hear. Unfortunately, I'm not saying everyone does that, but my experience, there's been a lot of people will do that. And I was probably a little naive, just believing it. So it left me with no club. And I probably didn't push the issue enough. Like, I was happy, I think, thinking that just playing well in the reserve team would get my shot in the first team. I wasn't banging down the door being like, what do you need me to do to start for the first team in the Premiership where it really matters? So then I made the decision that I needed to get some first team rugby because I'd only been playing reserve team rugby and I was 22 now. And that meant dropping down a league to the Championship. So I was actually all set to sign somewhere else for another club, and was just literally agreeing that we were dotting the I's and crossing the T's when I got a call from the director of rugby at that club, and he said, oh, Charlie, by the way, I'm leaving tomorrow. Just thought I'd let you know. I was like, right, that's great. He was like, yeah, so unfortunately, mate, we're not going to be able to sign you. I was like, oh, good. So thankfully, my agent did what he does, and Jersey, who play in the Championship, so league below the Premiership, gave me a call. I went out, flew out, met Harvey, the director of rugby, met the forwards coach. It seemed a good fit. I signed at Jersey, and that's where I spent my last 2 seasons playing for Jersey.
And how did you feel? I mean, you must have had to be incredibly resilient to go through all that.
Oh, yeah, it definitely thickens your skin up.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster. I think, you grow up a lot very quickly dealing with all that. And it does bring out a cynical side of now. People tell me things, especially if I'm negotiating and stuff. I'm like, well, I don't know if you'll tell the truth, which is upsetting because I know, like I said, I consider myself a very honest person. Just unfortunately, not everyone's like that. And I've probably learned that the hard way. But you just, like I say, you've got to be incredibly strong-minded and strong-willed when it comes to your training and stuff. But also the stuff off the pitch. That's the bit I hate about rugby. Is I hate negotiating. I hate that I can't just put my boots on and go and play. There is another side to it, but that's professional sport. There is another side, and you have to deal with that, unfortunately. And it's why I have an agent, because 90% of that nonsense he deals with for me. Yeah. That's his job. That's what he gets paid to do. But some of it you have to deal with yourself. And it's a part of the job. Everyone has parts of their job they don't enjoy, and that's, for me, that's the part I don't.
That's absolutely fascinating. Okay, so I want to put it to the students and ask them if they have any questions. Whilst we've got Charlie with us, would they like to ask anything? So I know Joe's there, Amy there, James is there too. So do you guys have any questions that I could ask Charlie that you'd like to know?
I was just wondering about the nutritional side, because personally I'm not very good with fruit and veg. And I was just wondering how much that actually affects your performance. Because personally, I don't see a difference in performance.
So I think it's a really good question. I think, so I'm 24. I've been doing this professionally since I was 16. Probably only in the last 6 months have I got to grips properly with what I need nutritionally. So that's the thing. I think a lot of the time people throw blankets out of this is healthy. Well, actually, it's different for everyone. When it comes to fruit and veg, the things I say is fruit, I learned the hard way. You've got to be really careful with, because although it's all good, it has a lot of sugar in it. So fruit late at night, like, I love red grapes. I could eat red grapes all day long. And if I was a bit peckish at night, sometimes I'd have red grapes, a whole pack of red grapes before I go to bed. Really bad, loads of sugar before I go to bed. But I didn't learn that till later. So I think fruit's great, and it can be a real good way to satisfy a sweet tooth for me personally. Rather than having a Mars bar, I'll go for a Pink Lady apple. Yes, it's not the same, but it does help satisfy my sweet tooth. The thing with, while they might not affect performance, as in you don't feel like when you go and train you've got more energy from eating fruit and veg, especially vegetables, what I'd say is they're really important in recovery. They're just really good for your body and healthy. And 95% of being a professional athlete is being able to train well and being able to, like, day in, day out. So I'll go in on a Monday. So I'll play on a Saturday. I'll play 80 minutes. I'll make 20 tackles. I'll carry the ball 15 times. I'll be in 20 mauls. I'll hit 37 rucks. My body is a mess. Like, I wake up every Sunday morning. I wake up. It's like I'm 85 years old. Like, I can help. But then my job is that by the time Monday rolls around again, I've got to be ready to go. So what I do in that day is so important, but what I do in the lead up to the game as well, and that's where fruit and veg, especially vegetables, come in, is they're just really good for you, and then just really good nutrients to have inside you. And I don't know the technical names for it all, because I just know that they're good to eat. So I can't stress the importance of eating them enough. If you don't like them, and I can understand that, because some vegetables are minging, some are awful. A lot of boys, especially, I'm lucky, I quite like vegetables. I'm lucky in that sense. But boys will add them to smoothies. So things like I'll add a lot of spinach to smoothies, frozen spinach. You can get frozen broccoli that you can throw in smoothies. That if you get the right fruit with it, you can't actually really taste the broccoli. So things like green smoothies and shakes can be really useful for getting those nutrients in. But the other thing for me is as well, like, I'm always hungry. I've got a mate who says he's never seen me full. I get that. But if I eat till I'm full, I eat way too much because I get heavy easily. And if I get on the scales and they're over 120 kilos, I get in trouble. If they're under 120, everyone's happy. That's how it works for me. So for me, vegetables are a good way to fill me up with meals, rather than having an extra portion of pasta or extra fatty meat that maybe isn't as good. I'll have a few extra florets of broccoli and it fills me up. So that's my advice with fruit and veg. But to be honest, my biggest bit of advice that I'm learning now with nutrition is don't get too stressed about it. Honestly, don't overthink it. And a lot of people would not give this advice, but this is my opinion, is we all know what's healthy and what's not healthy to an extent. Like, we know that good quality meat, good quality vegetables, and good quality carb sources are good for you. You go mainly with them, you're not going to go too wrong. We know that going down Mackey's, getting a Big Mac and McFlurry and chips isn't healthy for you. So use them as a treat now and again, and just stick to mainly things that you know are healthy, and you're not going to go too far wrong.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I hope that was helpful.
It was, yeah.
Cool.
Anyone else? James, do you want to ask something?
Yeah, I just wonder, what do you think about the current situation with so many clubs letting their young players go to at the end of their contracts because of the coronavirus? Do you think all those players will get re-signed somewhere else, or?
Oh, man, rugby is a bit of a mess right now. It was before the pandemic. The financial side of rugby wasn't brilliant, but this has brought it more into the public eye. Unfortunately, no, not all of them will. There's just not enough contracts going. Squads are cutting contracts. They're cutting squad sizes. They're cutting funding. The thing that really worries me is, for example, when I didn't get a contract at Gloucester, so I'm 22 years old, there were a number of professional championship clubs there. What worries me now is the RFU. I wrote an article on it this year, actually, when it happened. The RFU have cut the funding to the championship almost in half. So now with the 12 championship sides, only 50% of them are professional anymore. So suddenly, if you get cut from a premiership side, there's half as many options to go and carry on a professional career. So I I don't see how they will all get re-signed because there's just not enough professional contracts. Now, there's plenty of part-time rugby to be played. You can make a nice bit of money on the side of your job playing in the Championship or National One on match fees, but it's not the same. It's not being professional. And I think we are unfortunately going to lose a lot of people from the professional side of the sport who maybe didn't get the chance. Just because you get cut from a Premiership club doesn't mean you're not good enough. Like, it's so much like, I've got so many mates who've made it, like boys like Lewis Ludlam. Take Luds for example. I played with Luds growing up. I played against him. He's just been to the World Cup for England. He only got his chance at Northampton when he did because there was an injury and a coaching change. It didn't happen by design. He got his chance and he took it. So many boys, he was that close to getting cut the season before and got a contract by the skin of his teeth. I've spoken to him about it. And he said it in public as well, he was that close. And now he's one of England's biggest superstars. So many people don't get their chance, not because they're not good enough, but just because the luck isn't with them. And that's when they need a Championship or another club to take a bet on them. And my worry is that there is just not enough clubs anymore. I think we are going to unfortunately lose a lot of people from the game because there isn't the opportunities there anymore. It is sad, it's a shame, but obviously the pandemic has had its effect. But the RFU have also unfortunately made that decision with cutting the funds to the champ.
Okay.
It's tough, but what I'd say is like anyone who's still growing up wanting to be a rugby player, the opportunities are still there. Don't let it dissuade you. It's always hard to make it as a rugby player, football, cricket, or whatever sport you're playing. Like, don't let the fact that it's got a little bit harder dissuade anyone. There's a saying, the guy I referred to earlier, Neil McCarthy, he's probably my biggest mentor in rugby, and he says to me all the time, I think it's so true across, especially if it was easy. Like if whatever you're trying to do was easy, everybody's it's hard to do. Because if you want to do something, don't be put off the fact it's hard. Because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So yeah, it's hard to make your career in it, but all you can do is give it your best shot. Because at the end of the day, if you're giving it your best, there's no more you can do. I never want to be 70 years old, roll over in bed and go, oh, God, what if I tried a little bit harder? I think what if would break my heart. So I'll know that I've given everything to this to have the career I want. And if I don't have the career I want, it's not because I didn't try, just because I wasn't good enough, I wasn't lucky. And I can live with that. I can't live with not giving it the best shot I can.
Does anybody have any other questions for Charlie?
Do you think it's a viable option to go to university and play professional at an English club? Because I know in Ireland they force their players straight out of school to actually do some other education, but I was wondering what it's like in England.
Absolutely. It probably wasn't when I was coming through, but with the creation of the Buck Super League, so there is now you'll might know more than me, but a Super League for, I think it's 8 universities in England playing this Super League, and I know for a fact Premiership clubs and Premiership academies are watching that league, and it is almost just as viable a way of making it into Premiership clubs now as academies are. Take Alex Dombrandt at Harlequins, for example. He got picked up playing for Cardiff Met in the Buck Super League. In the Buck Super League, 12 months later, he's starting week in week out for Harlequins in the Premiership. So absolutely, it's a viable option, and it will become a more and more viable option, I think, in the next few years. So it's just doing your research on which universities have the best rugby program for you, which one you'd want to go and play for, why it would suit you best, speaking to the coaches, and then getting your A-levels to be able to go there, and then going there because they are basically becoming academies now. They're getting great quality coaching, they've got unbelievable facilities, and Premiership clubs are watching them. So absolutely, and it's something that if I was 16 again, 17, 18 now, it's definitely something I would very seriously look into, even if academies were looking at me, because you get your degree, you get your qualifications, you get to enjoy university life, because that was maybe something and I don't regret it, but I didn't enjoy maybe some of the things that other 18, 19, 20-year-olds do at that age. So you get that side while getting the incredible coaching and a degree, and there's still Premiership clubs watching you. It's a no-brainer to me. That is a very much a viable option, and something that I think a lot of players will look into.
Okay, thanks.
Right. About nerves.
Yes.
Do you ever get nervous?
Every time I play rugby.
How do you calm those nerves? Do you have any sort of methods, anything that you use, anything we could take forward?
I think a lot of it is experience of, I must have played hundreds of professional games now, so I know I'd be worried if I didn't get nervous. Put it that way, like, it's just part of my job is I deal with nerves. But I think something I think I've realised is I think when I was young, so when I was 17, 18, I used to get so riled up before a game. Like, I want to tear everyone's head off. I'd be, from an hour out, I'd be pacing the change room, headphones in, just eyes gone, just staring, like, not talking about ending of the game. I think something I've learned a lot is now I'm so much more relaxed before a game. I'll get there an hour and a half before kick-off. I'll make myself a coffee. I'll sit and I'll chat to the boys and the physios and the coaches, probably about what I was watching on telly the night before, maybe if I saw a film, really calm myself. Because I think the best way to know I'm prepared is what I do in that hour before a game isn't really going to make that much of a difference. The work I've done from the Monday to the Friday is what's going to make the difference. So I think the best way to help nerves are a part of life, a part of sport. But all I think about is if I start going, oh God, so for example, oh God, first line out, am I going to know what to call? So when I'm calling line outs, and I go, well, have you done all your analysis this week, Charlie, of the opposition? Yes. Have you run through every single call you can make this week in training enough times that you're happy that you know them and everyone else does? Yes. Okay, so what is there to worry about? You know what you're doing, everyone else knows what they're doing, you've practiced it, just go and do it. So I think the biggest advice I can have for nerves is do your preparation, because whether it's an exam, whether it's a sports game, whether it's a big meeting, if you've done the preparation, you can go, I'm nervous, but actually, can I look myself in the mirror and say I'm prepared for this in the best way I can be? Yes, well, that's all I can do. So that's the big thing for me, is make sure I get my work done in the weeks so that when I do get nervous, which is natural, I'm going to, I can say to myself, Charlie, you've done everything you can, now you've just got to go out and do it. And you can't practice going out and doing it because you can only do that on a Saturday. So that's me. I've seen other people do a lot of different things. I've seen some guys who, I always say the strangest place in the world is a changing room before a game of rugby. Because everyone is doing different things. You have some guys who have their music and won't talk to anyone, and that's fine. I've seen one lad who would sit genuinely for the 15 minutes before he went and warmed up, fully kitted out. He'd just have his towel over his head and sit by himself, and that's how he dealt with them. He just didn't want to see or talk to anyone. And then you've got other guys who are so relaxed, guys. You get guys who get really giggly and get nervous energy. I play with a guy called James Chisholm who plays for Harlequins, one of my best mates. He is a nightmare before a game because he gets so excited and so giggly. He starts trying to play practical jokes on people. And you're like, James, we're playing in 20 minutes. Stop it. So everyone deals with it differently. But for me, I just fall back on, have I done my preparation? Yes, that's all I can do.
Really, really interesting. It sounds a bit like what it's like before an exam, actually, seeing all the students interacting with each other.
Exactly. And then I think with exams, it's the same of have I done my revision? Yes, well, that's all I can do. Yeah. I don't know when I open that exam paper what the first question is going to be. I don't know when that ball gets kicked off. I don't know what's going to happen for the next 80 minutes. I can predict what might happen, and I can be prepared for those things. I can predict what questions I might get and be prepared for them. But you can't know. So you just got to predict and prepare the best you can.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Does anybody else have any other questions before I let Charlie go?
Guys, feel free to ask me anything. I can talk all day. Honestly, anything.
I was just, you know how obviously with you living in, I don't know, did you live in Crosby or somewhere around? Yeah.
Crosby, born and bred.
With like Sale obviously being an hour away, how come Leicester was the option and not a club closer?
Sale told me at 14 I wasn't good enough.
Oh, really?
Happened. Yeah, I went to Sale. So back when I did it, it was all the names have changed now. But when I was 13, 14, so you played for Lancashire, and then from Lancashire and Cheshire, Sale would choose people to go to a thing called Schools of Rugby then. Then it became EPDG, then it became DPP. I don't know what it's called now because I'm old. But at, how old was I? Yeah, 14. Sale, I went to the Schools of Rugby thing at Sale, and they split us into two rooms at the end. I remember sitting in the room that I was in, and I was looking around the other players in the room, and I was like, I don't think this is the good room to be in. I was like, I think I'm in the wrong room here. And they came in, they were like, "Oh, guys, thanks for everything today, but I'm afraid this is your end of your journey with Sailor Sharks." I was like, "Oh, okay." And they gave you like a feedback thing, and basically mine said I was rubbish. So I was like, "Right, okay, that was unforeseen." I was like, I wasn't ready for that. Which obviously at 14 is a bit of a knock, but it was brilliant for me in the end because it meant Leicester were allowed to talk to me because actually you're not allowed at that point. I don't know what the rules are now. You weren't allowed to talk to anyone who wasn't from your catchment area. So when I signed for Leicester, it all kicked off because that by then Sale did want me. So Sale went to the RFU and were like, Leicester can't do this. Charlie's in our catchment area. We'll have him. And Leicester said, well, you said no. And they said, oh, no, we didn't. And then that was when I produced the piece of paper that said, you're rubbish, Charlie, we don't want you. And the RFU were like, Sale, you had your shot, you can go to Leicester. So if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have gone to Leicester. I wouldn't have had the memories I had. I wouldn't be the person I am today. But at 14, it was that was the first real setback I had of something I wanted to achieve, not achieving it, and someone who I really wanted to think I was good, being like, no, you are no good at rugby. I was like, oh, right. Okay.
It gave you that push to actually become.
I don't know if it gave me a push. I think I was already that motivated that I'd already decided I wanted to play for England 16s at that point. And some people, a massive motivation for them is proving people wrong. That's not how my brain works. I'm not a massive of screw you, I'm going to prove you wrong. That's not my biggest motivation. I think my biggest motivation is proving things to myself more than anything. But for some people, it would have been. For me, it was just probably the first opened my eyes that it wasn't all going to be sunshine and roses. It wasn't going to be this easy road to the top, and I haven't made it to the top. I'm still working my way up, hopefully. But it probably helped me. At the time, I thought it was the end of the world. Like, don't get me wrong, I walked out, I got in the car and I cried. Like, I'm happy to admit that. Like, I thought it was the end of the world, I thought it was done. But after a few days and speaking to my mum and my dad, like, you get used, you deal with it and you learn that that's what it's like. And I think you've got to learn what it's like to be told no, and you've got to learn what it's like to lose because it's a part of life, it's a part of sport. We lose a lot, it happens. So it's probably good that I learned at that age. I think you see a lot of time now. People don't get told no, people don't lose till they're a bit older and then they don't know how to react to it. So you've got to learn that. But yeah, it was a tough one at the time. It was like, they think I'm rubbish. Right, okay. What am I going to do with that?
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks very much, Charlie.
No, not a problem.
James, did you want to ask anything else?
I was just going to ask, how have you found training in lockdown? How have you stayed motivated to keep it up?
Good question. So it's been strange. Like, really weird training by myself. I haven't done that since I was 16. I've always had a group of 10, 15, 30 lads around me. So that's what I've missed the most is the interaction with my mates every day. I'm really lucky that I go to work and every day there are 30 of my best mates there. So that's been weird, but it's been I've been motivated in the fact that I actually decided I was going to take this time away from the club to try a few different things in my training with nutrition. Obviously, I had to because limited equipment and stuff, but it's actually worked well. I feel really fit. I feel really strong and healthy at the moment. I am a bit bored of training by myself. Like, my daily routine is, so I'm actually living down in Exeter with my girlfriend at the moment, so I'm not up at home, but my daily routine is I get up at 7, I have my coffee because I don't function without coffee. That's what you're going to learn as you get older, is caffeine will get you through. Sorry?
That's like my mum. If she doesn't have a coffee, like, casually go.
So I have my coffee and then I go and run some. I'm out running, or I've got some other. I've got medicine ball and some battle ropes down here that I use for when I do my off-peak conditioning when I was at home. I'm lucky I had a watt bike at home, so I do some sort of fitness every morning at about 8 o'clock from Monday to Saturday. And then I'm doing lots of body weight stuff for weights. So I've got some resistance bands and I've got a medicine ball that I put in a rucksack to be weighted. So I do a lot of weighted squats, press ups, things like that. Lots of different exercises. I'm doing them. So I'm doing 3 upper body sessions and 2 lower body sessions a week. So I'm still training 11 times a week, and then doing skills on top of that. But just like, I pass the ball to my girlfriend, who then throws it back, and I pass it to her again. When I was at home, it was good because my sister plays professionally, so we could train together. But she's back down in London now with Harlequins, so yeah, it's been a challenge, but it's been quite fun looking to it. Like, I go down to the local park because they've got monkey bars, so I can do chin-ups and stuff on them. And the kids are looking at me going, "What is this man doing?" And I'm there, just big 6'4" 100 just sweating, just grunting. Oh, horrible. People look at me going, well, we're not bringing our kids here anymore. So I'm waiting to get reported for scaring kids. But no, it's been a challenge, and I'm very ready to get back to some sort of normality of being with my teammates and training and having someone guide my training. But I think we're still a bit away from that, and also it's important we stay safe. That's the most important thing. I'm looking forward to getting back in a proper gym, like being able to do. As much as I've enjoyed being inventive, I'm looking forward to be able to walk to a gym and going, everything I want and need is here. But it's been fun, and I think it's been good for me. I've learned a few things that I've had to try different things, and I've gone, I've had really good results from doing this exercise that I wouldn't have done otherwise, for example. So I think it's been good. It's been a challenge, but I've enjoyed it. But yeah, I am ready to get back to the normality of training. And then the motivation side of it there's been some mornings when I've woken up and I've just gone, I'd rather stay in bed for another hour here than get up. But I'm a big believer personally in that routine is important. I like having a routine. I've had a routine since I was 16. I've had people tell me what a routine is. So I've tried to keep my own routine of I get up, I do my fitness, I come home, I have my breakfast, I then do my weights, I come home, I have a smoothie, and then I get on whatever work I've got to do that day, so whether it's some studying or whatever I've got to do. My girlfriend has a business, I help her run that those sorts of things. So I've been in a routine, but yeah, it's been tough to motivate sometimes, but I think that's when I'm not a massive believer in like some gyms and some training rooms have quotes plastered all over the wall. But there's one that really resonates with it, and when I've been struggling for motivation, anything I think about it, there's a guy called Jason Witten who plays American football. I'm a big American football fan, and he's one of my favourite athletes in the world. And he said something once. He said, "Success doesn't stem from the standards you adhere to occasionally; it derives from what you do consistently." And I just think it just hit so much me of anyone can have a week of doing the right thing, or a month, or 6 weeks. It's what you do all the time, and if you do the right thing all the time, then it's likely you'll get success. So that's what I kind of think to myself when I have those mornings when I wake up and I've got to go and run and it's raining and I'd rather stay in bed. That's what I kind of think to myself. But it has been challenging, definitely.
Okay, thanks.
That was excellent, Charlie. I'm conscious that we've nearly had you for an hour, but it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you. I'm really grateful for your time, and I'm so glad that we eventually got to talk to you.
Yeah. Sorry about last week.
No, don't worry at all. It's just one of those things.
I went off last week going, technology, it's a nightmare, and then I realised this morning I did it right. It was absolutely my fault. But yeah, if anyone, obviously I know James and Joe have asked a lot of questions. I know Amy's just listened, but anyone who is here or not, if anyone wants to ask me any question about anything, I'm happy for you to get my email from Vicky or from Lisa. Anyone can shoot me an email and ask anything. I'm more than happy to help any way I can with anyone.
Thanks very much, Charlie. Right, I'll let you go. Have a lovely day. Great to meet you.